Hello, everyone, and welcome to another amazing episode of InvoTalks, powered by InvoZone, a software development and consulting firm providing remote teams of software engineers and programmers in the latest tech stacks. We offer blockchain services under the brand InvoBlocks and game and metaverse services under the brand InvoGames. If you have any queries, please shoot us an email at info@invozone.com. So, I'm your host, Zofishan Ayman, growth engineer at InvoZone, and in this episode, we are going to be discussing about the use of generative AI in HR. Today, we have a very special and precious guest joining us, Ricardo Reyes, who is a guy with extensive experience in generative AI, and I'll not be wrong to say that his life turns around generative AI. So he's a perfect guy to have such a discussion, and he is also a chief science officer at Erudit AI. Erudit AI is a people-first AI for HR to measure cultural impact with real-time employee experiences. So before we get started, um you can listen InvoTalks episodes, recent episodes at Spotify, SoundCloud, and Google. So please subscribe our channel and let's get started. Hello, Ricardo. How are you?
Nice to meet you. Thanks for having me here.
Thank you for joining Invo Talks with us. And before I officially start, please tell us about yourself, and then I will kickstart from there.
Sure. So as you said, I'm the Chief Science Officer of Erudit, which is a company based in the US that does AI for HR. What we're trying to solve is the problem of managing remote teams and managing young teams or intergenerational teams that have different needs by trying to replace service, because the speed at which the HR market is moving is faster than the information you can collect from traditional methods. So we're trying to improve these methods using artificial intelligence.
So, Ricardo, what made you jump into AI?
I've been doing code for half of my life, I think, or more than half of my life, probably 70% of my life. So I cannot remember a time of my life where I didn't code. And I've been growing with tech. I started doing websites, then I moved to doing apps. And as my customers started requesting for things that traditional programming couldn't solve, I started researching onto AI to be able to use it for logistics or for fashion or for other needs of my customers. And then just fell in love with it because it's a combination of a lot of sciences and very advanced math, and it's always a challenge. It advances really fast. So there's always something to learn, some new challenge, and it's very useful for most of the industries.
Wow, amazing. So, since you are a chief science officer at Erudit AI, please tell us about Erudit AI, what it is providing.
Yeah, so we provide software as a service for companies that have teams of at least 5 people to keep privacy safe. You have to connect your communication tools, for example, Slack, Teams, Zoom, and then we collect the data of the communications of your employees and then provide you with an analytics dashboard that gives you metrics such as their burnout rate, their engagement rate, and also if they like the physical environment where they work in, if they have good peer relationships with their other mates, and other metrics that interacting with our customers, we have realized that they are useful for them.
Wow, amazing. Since you and Erudit AI is all about generative AI and HR, please tell us what kind of data sets are most effective in training generative AI algorithms in HR.
Yeah. So as you can imagine, training a large language model requires also large amounts of data. So then the main problem is to be very careful with the legal aspects of the datasets, because normally you go to open data to like let's say preheat or warm up your models, and then try to add your own data to make it suitable for your task. So right now, a lot of the teams doing large language models are using OpenAI results. Like they query GPT to give them data and then use that data to train their own models. The problem is that the OpenAI license doesn't allow to do this for commercial uses, especially uses that have to do something with GPT itself. So you have to be very careful not to use these things for commercial use. For commercial use, I think the best dataset is the Open Assistant dataset that is provided by a company, open source company called Lion. It has a very big amount of data. You have to prepare all of your data in a structure called Instruct GPT. And you can read the paper, or there are several blogs on how the Instruct GPT works, but it's pretty much just putting the prompt and the expected answer from the language model that you want. This is only needed if you want to add any new ability to the model that it doesn't already have. So for example, the model is already very good at providing you from a sentence who did the action or who is the subject of the action. So it would be a waste of your time to add more data on this kind of ability because that's already present in the model. So only if you want the model to do something different, then you add new data. If you just want to train on your industry, then you don't need to do the supervised part of the model. You can only provide feedback to the model and just train the last part, which in most large language models is called the reinforcement learning from human feedback part. So pretty much you start interacting with the model, and then you collect, let's say, like feedback to the model on if it gave you the right answer or the wrong answer, and if it gave you the wrong answer, what would be the right answer. So I would say, don't waste your time training the supervised part. You only if you needed to do something different, you should waste time on this, because you would need at least 1,000 samples to make it worth it, because otherwise it would drown in the huge amount of data that you need to train that phase, which is the initial phase of the model. And then if you want to just train it for your industry, do it in the last part, and be very careful with the legal part of the datasets that you are training your first part on.
Okay, so there are any kind of limitations in terms of quality or scope of available training datasets?
That's a very good question. So the problem is that most of the research teams you will see have derived data from GPT-4 or GPT 3.5. And the problem is that if you're doing research and what you want to do is publish a paper, that's totally fine. Like you can collect data and do it in your paper, and they love it because it's more marketing for them, right? But if you want to sell something, you need to be very, very careful on this because there are lots of data sets available, but you have to be careful they don't come from GPT, that they actually come from taggers. So for example, there's this website called ShareGPT where people share their prompts that they did for GPT, and then the answers that they got from GPT. So for example, in that case, you could use the prompts because these are from regular people that posted them. So they have given the ownership to ShareGPT, but you could not use the prompts from GPT, right? So you would have to make your own answers, but you can use the part that the humans put. But then there are open source datasets like the one from Databricks that they use to train the model Dolly, and also the one from Open Assistant from Lion. Those two are under an Apache 2.0 license, so they are you can use them freely even for commercial purposes.
Okay. So how can companies integrate generative AI with their already existing HR systems powered by traditional AI models?
Yeah, so the first thing is to identify the use cases. As in everything AI related, it's very important not just to jump on the trend and say like, okay, I need to apply a generative AI model and then try to force the generative AI model into your brain.
Don't just blindly follow everything.
So then you have to first identify the use cases, and if it's natural to use generative AI for this, otherwise you're just wasting your time because these are expensive technologies, right? The second one is to check if an API of someone that is already doing it is cheap enough. Because, for example, OpenAI costs you about $1 per million words. So for most of use cases, that's affordable. And then only if you are like enterprise or your whole technology or your app depends on the generative AI. If the generative AI is the main or is the core, or if you need to use it offline, for example, then you should train your own tool. For this, there are two techniques that are the most important, which is Zero and LoRa, because they help you train in either a lot of small GPUs or one really big GPU, which in the case of Google Cloud or Amazon Web Services, it would cost you around 300 to 600 USD. And even training a 175 billion model, it would cost you still around 5,000 USD. So if you use Zero and LoRa, you don't have to spend the millions that it would take to train something like GPT. And this is already available through the Microsoft library called DeepSpeed Chat or just DeepSpeed. And you can find hundreds of resources on how to use LoRa and Zero to train your model.
Okay. So, what do you think? What are your thoughts regarding the impact of a generative AI having on the hiring processes and how HR teams can ensure that technology is used fairly and accurately?
Sure. I think it comes from all parts. First, people can write better resumes for themselves using generative AI. Because sometimes when you receive a resume, the person is very talented, but they don't know how to express or market that they are very talented. So I think the first part will be for people to write better resumes, to improve their headshots, maybe using Stable Diffusion. There are lots of open source or free apps or that you can pay 10 or 15 USD to use them to improve your headshots. So that on the human part, right? Then, for example, to write the job description, a lot of HR people that have not the expertise on what they're trying to hire don't know how to write the profile. So, for example, if you are trying to hire a oil engineer, or something that is very, I don't know, a particle physics scientist, probably the HR person doesn't know how to write this, but you can use the generative models to help you and put like at least the bare minimum of what would be needed so you don't waste your time, and also to filter them, right? If okay, now I receive the resumes, how do I know if I should waste my time on these people? You can also use it to filter the resumes you are receiving. This on the recruiting part. Of course, us in the management part, for example, how we use it is we generate actions, like we propose actions to the HR managers on how to improve their burnout or their engagement or other metrics by looking at the metrics that are other models produce, and then from that using generative AI to create like an action plan. So this is just a couple examples, but in general, anything that has to do with creating text or evaluating text, you can use it.
Yeah, I agree with your time. It really, honestly, I've seen it many companies, and it really saves their time as well. Time of HRs to and it helps in proper analysis to appoint a very to the very right person for the job as well. So do you think HR teams leverage generative AI to improve retention rates as well?
Yeah, of course. For example, to keep your people engaged is probably the most important part about retention. Because humans have an emotional part that it's very hard to tackle with productivity tools, right? There's like, for example, remote teams have a hard time meeting each other. Like a lot of people feel very disconnected. This is good for a lot of people. There are lots of people who don't like to interact with people at companies' parties, and they are completely fine. But other roles that were used to going to the office and talking to their peers and having a coffee with them, some of them still find a way to meet them outside of work or video chat. But if these people are, for example, a new integration to the team, uh, to have a new hire integrate to the team in a remote work culture, it's quite hard, especially if with the difference of time zones, right? If you hire someone in the US and he has to work with someone in India, it's quite complicated, the difference of time zones. So then you need to make programs or make ways to keep them engaged, either by making body programs. But in general, you could use, for example, generative AI to suggest you new ideas of kinds of things you can do to improve the relationships between your workmates, and to design them for the specific case of each one, right? Because most of the pre-made programs are for the general public. So I think generative AI can be very useful if you retrain it or fine tune it a little bit on, for example, HR blogs, HR magazines. Because GPT is frozen on 2021, right? For it, after 2021, there's no world. So this is one of the main limitations of GPT. For example, using DeepSpeed Chat or using Open Assistant, one of the main advantages is that you can incorporate new things to the model, and also that you can incorporate things that are specific for your industry. So you could take the latest HR blogs and the latest like magazines and put them into Open Assistant or put them into Deep Chat, fine tune it, and then have it recommend you things specifically for each of the employees you are trying to improve retention.
Okay, so do you think it is moving us towards automation?
We have always been moving towards automation. This is not new. Like you just like, like that's the core of humanity, right? You used to have agriculture done with oxen, right? The bulls.
But I like this. We are always moving towards automation. Okay.
That energy is expensive, right? Like
Yeah.
the whole of life from a biological standpoint is to consume energy and use energy efficiently and save it if you can. That's why we get fat, right? Like
Yeah.
consume energy and then you keep it for afterwards. So then humans are always trying to optimize energy somehow to either use less energy or use energy better.
Yeah.
Especially now that we have the oil crisis, for example, the people are getting more conscious about the uses. Yeah, everything is always moving towards saving energy somehow, and automation is one of those ways.
So there is this concern in people regarding job loss and automation. So what do you see generative AI is playing in HR in the future? And do you think that it will totally replace HRs, or they both will coexist collaboratively maybe?
Uh, so the thing is job definitions, job descriptions, right? So every job has a title and a list of tasks that are expected for most companies for that job. So then probably the job descriptions will expand, and probably you will lose some tasks on the job description, or maybe the title will evolve, but full replacement of a job description, because you're saying this question is a false conundrum, right? This is a false dilemma, a false problem, because you then will have to have people who create the data sets for the AI. You would have to have people who implemented, people who know how to prompt. So probably the only thing that would happen is that the HR manager will now have one task that is improving prompts or designing prompts or connecting the tool. Like it will transform the job description, but I don't think it will delete it because you still have someone to drive the AI, right? Until the AI has desire, until the AI is able to prompt itself, you will always need a driver.
So do you think it is driving, driving force? It is a helping in. It's a kind of a helping hand.
It's a helping hand, yeah, of course. And the faster you assimilate this helping hand, it's like what happened when cars came, right? Or what happened with tractors came. These kinds of very disruptive technologies have happened a lot of times across life. And the only thing that has happened is that they transformed the job description, or created new jobs, or maybe moved people from some job description to another job description or job title. But full replacement, the only thing that has been fully replaced ever is like elevator operator. That's the only thing that has disappeared completely from the world, right? Other things, farmers are still there. Like even with self-driving tractors and with tractors operated by geospatial intelligence, and we still have farmers because someone has to organize that the tractor does what it has to do, and things will keep evolving. But I think for there to be a real human replacer, it would have to be something that has emotions, something that has desire, and something that has a strategic planning. And GPT is just not there yet.
Obviously, it's in just an AI model, I think, and it can't replace human brain.
Yeah, no, like
Human brain is human brain.
this people have been saying since AI exists, and we are still not there yet.
Yeah, we will have this concern that it will move the whole world toward automation, and then there will be a lot of, joblessness in that area. But I think to use AI to get full profit from AI, you need to use it. You need to know how to use it properly. If you don't know how to use it, then you can't have a profit from it. You can't have benefit from it.
Exactly.
So thank you so much. Thank you so much. And Ricardo, it was an amazing session with you. I loved having a conversation with you, such an informative conversation. And you are really excelling in your AI field. It is really nice to see you. And thank you so much for coming to InvoTalks.
Thanks to you for inviting.